October 7th, 2023. The world woke up to horror. A brutal Hamas attack inside Israel that changed everything. But here's the question no one asks. What about October 6th? What about the years, the months, the days before that morning? Because October 7th didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the breaking point of a pressure cooker, one that had been boiling for over 16 years. Before we dive into these facts, if you want to see what life in Gaza really looks like, not just through news headlines, but through the eyes of the people living it, there are a few channels you should definitely follow. Arab Ambience, Bisan Owda, Hamada Sho. These creators give you what headlines often leave out: the human reality. I highly recommend checking them out if you want a deeper understanding of Gaza beyond the statistics and politics. Since 2007, Gaza has lived under a blockade imposed by Israel, with Egypt controlling one side. 2.3 million people trapped in just 140 square miles, one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Israel controls the borders, the airspace, the sea. Electricity, sometimes just 4 to 6 hours a day. Clean water, over 95% undrinkable. Youth unemployment, over 50%. Families waiting months for medical permits to leave for treatment. Many denied, many dying in the process. For most Gazans, life means blackouts, empty fridges, unemployment, and drones buzzing overhead every night. It's why international observers have called Gaza the world's largest open-air prison. Between January and October 6th, over 200 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank alone, the highest toll in nearly 2 decades. In Gaza, periodic airstrikes killed both militants and civilians, barely making international news. Israel called these targeted strikes. But in crowded neighborhoods, targets often meant children. By October 6th, dozens of Palestinians had already been killed in just the first week of that month. Funerals were already happening, while the world's cameras were pointed elsewhere. Ask yourself, why do we only start counting the dead after October 7th? On October 6th, 2023, just one day before the Hamas assault, Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank were burying their dead. In the West Bank town of Jenin, clashes left more Palestinians killed that week. In Gaza, sporadic airstrikes and shootings added to the toll. To the outside world, it was another quiet day. But for Gaza's families, it was funerals, grief, and rage. October 6th wasn't calm. It was just invisible. Inside Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu's government was in chaos. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis were protesting his controversial judicial reforms. The army and intelligence services were overstretched, distracted. Overconfidence in walls, drones, and the Iron Dome created the illusion that Gaza was contained. But no wall can contain anger forever. Israel thought Gaza was locked away behind steel and concrete. But October 7th proved that no prison stays silent forever. For years, international media largely ignored Gaza unless rockets were flying. Everyday deaths, blackouts, starving children. Rarely front-page news. Western governments kept funding Israel's security while cutting aid to Gaza. Britain, the US, and Europe all knew the humanitarian collapse, but looked away. The suffering was background noise until it exploded. October 7th shocked the world, but for Gazans, the shock was that the world only noticed once Israelis were killed. After October 7th, Israel unleashed a war that killed tens of thousands in Gaza. But remember, the fuse was lit long before. 16 years of blockade. Thousands of Palestinians killed before October 7th. A generation growing up knowing only occupation, raids, and funerals. If you trap 2 million people, cut off their futures, and suffocate their lives, What do you expect will happen? October 7th wasn't a beginning. It was an eruption. It was the consequence of a world that ignored Gaza's cries, ignored Gaza's dead, and pretended the blockade could last forever. So, before we talk about October 7th, we need to ask, why was October 6th invisible?